Let's do it. Welcome, Timeless Personal Growth and Development, and today we're talking about risk being offensive. We're all going to be avoidant of offending people or worried that we're going to offend people. And not that not offending someone is bad, but there's a certain amount of growth, there's a certain amount of development you get by taking those risks of being offensive. And you can't shy away from that. You can't be afraid of not being offensive. Don't be afraid of that. And I was in a little work situation recently, and I'm not going to go into details about it because I'm going to keep that confidential for work. I'm not going to go into details, but I'll just give you an example of like what it was like me being told to not be afraid to be offensive in this specific situation. I wanted to take charge of a certain situation that wasn't being taken charge of. That it wasn't being, the situation wasn't being taken in a leadership perspective. A person that was taking a leadership perspective wasn't stepping up, and I felt the need to step up. But me stepping up to that situation and taking that leadership role would have been a little offensive to that person. Well, in my mind, it would have been disrespectful. It would have been undermining authority. It would have been disrespectful. And I was told that you have to risk that to be offensive. You have to risk it. Because nothing's going to get done. Nothing is going to develop and grow. And the problematic situation that we were in is not going to get any better if we don't take that risk of being offensive. You might offend someone. You might disrespect someone. Or from their point of view, they might see it as disrespect. But that's okay. Because you need to take that risk of being offensive. There's no growth, there's no development. When you're having a debate, when you're having a conversation with someone, and you're throwing ideas around, throwing different ideas, different opinions around, the debate is not going to progress. The debate is not going to get any better if you're always constantly worried about disrespecting the people around you, disrespecting the person you're talking to. Nothing is going to get any better. No one's going to grow from the situation if you don't risk being offensive. There will be times in your life where you will need to be offensive to someone. You may have to disrespect someone or hurt their feelings. You gotta stop worrying about hurting someone's feelings all the time. Stop sparing people's feelings all the time, because there's no growth. There's no moving forward if you're constantly worried about that. And this is just any avenue in life. This relates to friendships, relates to work, relates to schooling, when it relates to relationships, especially in relationships, especially. If you're in a relationship, if you're always sparing that other person's feelings, you're not really being true, you're not really being authentic, you're not really saying exactly what you want to say to that person because you're afraid of being offensive. Well, you can say exactly what you need to say, but you can have a proper delivery about it. And it all depends on your delivery to make it sound least offensive as possible. And if they do get offended by that situation, oh well. You got offended. Whatever. You still took that risk. You still took that chance. And now that person that you need to talk to, they know what you actually think, they know what you actually feel, and that's okay. They'll get upset, they'll get offended. Guess what? They'll get over it. They'll move past in a few days. Like, been times in my own life where I felt disrespected, I felt offended, of course. You move on. Get over it. We live now in a world where we're so adverse to offending people. We don't want to offend people. We don't want to scare people. We don't want to, make people feel bad. But it's to the point where it's too far to one side. It's to the extreme at this point. We're constantly worried about hurting people's feelings. And then when we do hurt someone's feelings, then you're gonna hear from the feelings police. The offended police are gonna come out and get you, and they're gonna cancel you in this woke culture that we're in now, because everyone's worried about being offended. I'll use like stand-up comedians are a perfect example. Stand-up comedy is made to be offensive. It's made to push the envelope because that's what makes it funny. When you go to a stand-up comedy, no matter who it is, whether it's Seinfeld, whether it's Bill Burr, whether it's Russell Peters, they are offensive to a certain extent, and they can't sit and deliver their comedy. They can't deliver it to an audience and constantly be worried that, like, oh, one or two people in this audience are going to be offended by what I say. Who cares? Because risking that offensiveness and having that edgy part of comedy is what makes comedy. You need to be offensive in comedy because that's what makes it funny. That's what makes it entertaining. Is being slightly offensive and risking that offensiveness. And in comedy, if you're always worried about offending your audience, offending the people that you're performing for, it's going to affect your performance, and it's not going to be very funny. So it makes comedy funny, is the fact that you're risking to be slightly offensive. And the less you care about being offensive, the more funny you're going to be, because that's what makes comedy enjoyable. We need to put our guard down a little bit and stop worrying about upsetting people and offending people and always worry about, because whatever the mission is, whatever the goal is, that's what we got to focus on. And if you're taking your eyes off the goal, off the mission, because you're constantly worried about other people's opinions or feelings, and your mission and your goal is taking a hit and is not being accomplished because of that, that is a problem. That people need to learn to be a little less sensitive and a little more mature. A little more mature in the sense of stop worrying about your sensibilities and your feelings all the time, worrying about being offended. Stop worrying about that, because the reality is the world doesn't really care. You're the one that cares. I'm not saying go out and be constantly disrespectful, but stop worrying about getting offended by something or worrying about offending someone else, because it's just getting in the way of you accomplishing your mission and your purpose and your goals in life. So remember that. And on that note, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it. If you like this video, do me a big favor, like, subscribe, Timeless Personal Growth and Development, and I'll see you all in the next video, guys. Have a good one.